Hello and welcome back to another F1 video. It has been a hot minute. I actually just opened my phone to check the last time that I made an F1 video. 3 months. It's been 3 months since I sat down and talked about Formula One, and it is long overdue, but I also didn't want to pressure myself into sitting down and making an F1 video because my channel isn't primarily F1 content. I also have a lot of other interests, but you probably don't care about that. So we're going to make an F1 video today because there's a lot to talk about, and I haven't really felt inspired to sit down and chat about Formula One, but I'm feeling it again. Things have been crazy in Formula One recently, and a season that started out pretty boring to me, or pretty uninspiring for me personally as a consumer of Formula One and enjoyer of Formula One. Things have taken a turn for the better, I would say. And so I wanted to jump on and chat because also next week I'm going to Silverstone to watch the Grand Prix. So I'm going to the British Formula One race and I'm so excited. We bought tickets quite a while ago and we wanted to go to heaps of F1 races while we were in Europe this year, but it just did not pan out. But that's okay. I'm really excited to go to England. It's one that I've always wanted to go to. So we'll see how that goes. If you're interested or care at all, I'm currently in Italy and I've been in Italy for a couple of months. I've been traveling around Europe for the last 3.5, 4 months. And we're going back to England next week for a bit of a UK refresher and road trip, which will be really good because honestly, right now in Italy, it is 36 degrees and it is so hot and I'm staying somewhere with no air conditioning. Would not recommend. It is quite sweaty in here, but that's okay. I did not make any notes for this video. I actually didn't even plan on filming a video until I thought, hey, I kind of want to film a video. So then I just chucked the camera on and now we're here. I think we need to go back, and I'm not going to be a great recount / historian of this season so far because one, I didn't make any notes, and two, I'm not going to look back and research because I actually prefer to just sit down and chat. So I'm going to talk to you about what I've been experiencing for this F1 season, basically from memory. There's not going to be much plan, not going to be much research, so I could be wrong, and that's fine. If I'm wrong, let me know. I'd love to be corrected. So I think the last video I made was after Australia, the first race of the season, where Oscar literally crashed in the formation lap, which actually sucked. And he has not had a stellar season. I don't know where he's coming in the championship, but it is not first or second or third or fourth probably. I don't even know if he's fifth. He's probably sixth or seventh, which is crazy. I'm actually going to check those standings now. Okay, Oscar is in sixth currently, which is actually better than I thought. I thought he would be in seventh. So not great, not great. He really needed to pull it out last year and he didn't. So this season is a big shakeup from last year. If you know me, you know that I am a big Oscar fan. If you don't know me, hi, I'm Jess and I'm a big Oscar fan. And it's disappointing to watch the season when the driver that you really like is actually not doing that well, or the team you really like is not doing that well. It can make it a lot less motivating to actually enjoy the sport. And I have had a lot of you in the comments tell me stuff like how you've been a Mercedes fan for so long and finally you can really enjoy the season again. So while I'm going to say this isn't my favorite season, I so get it if it is a season that you're really enjoying, and I see you, especially the Mercedes fans out there or the Lewis fans out there or any new baby Kimi fans. I reckon this season is phenomenal for you and I love that for you. But yeah, for me as an Oscar fan, it's not like the best, it's not the worst. I'm still enjoying it as a whole because just because Oscar's my favorite driver doesn't mean I don't like other drivers. I still have favorites spread across the grid and I do really like Kimi Antonelli. So that's been good for me. I've had a hard time watching the races this year because in Europe, we've been moving from country to country the whole year and it's been really difficult to find a service to stream it. I don't know how you guys watch it over here. It's quite difficult, actually. I don't know why they don't just do a European broadcast or something. So it's been challenging. I have watched every single race and every single qualifying. I got really uninspired there for a while. I don't remember what race it was, but it was back in March. I watched a race and I just could not care. Like, I just could not bring myself to care. I watched it and I was like, this is so boring. But sometimes it happens in Formula One because things like every race isn't so enjoyable. Just like how I really don't like Monaco very much because it's a qualifying race. You win basically how you qualify. And sometimes there's exciting stuff like in Monaco this year, Charles Leclerc crashed, which was crazy and sad. Not sad because anything crazy happened, but just sad for him, you know, it's sad when a driver crashes out, especially when it's like his home Grand Prix and all that stuff. I think this season has started off pretty slow and has been ramping up. At the beginning of the season, I kind of thought the new cars were a joke, and I still kind of think that. The biggest qualms I had at the beginning of the year, which stopped me from really getting on board and enjoying the races at the first half of the season, was I really didn't like the yo-yo overtakes. That's what they called it in a broadcast. I think it sums up perfectly. It happens less now. I'm not up to date with the whole regulation. So if you tell me if something's changed and why they're not like yo-yoing so much, that would be appreciated, because I'm probably not going to look into it. But yeah, the yo-yo overtakes, I know that they were so like promoting, oh my God, we've had more overtakes in this race than any other race. Wow, holy crap. Like, boom, boom, there was like 11 overtakes on first, second position. It doesn't count, in my opinion, if you've gone Kimi and then George and then Kimi and then George, because basically they just, the way that the cars were working, they were harvesting their power and whatever, and then they would get their MOM, manual override or overtake mode thing, and they could zoom past the person in front, and then all of a sudden the person behind would just go straight back, and it was actually kind of ridiculous, and it felt like it was overtakes based on the car and the power rather than the skill. And even with DRS, I think it was more of a skill thing. Like, you couldn't just zoom around at every friggin' corner and every second. So I was really, really not vibing with the heaps of overtakes. I would prefer a longer build up. I prefer the yearning. If you know. I want there to be skill and preciseness and tension, right? I want there to be tension in the overtakes. I would prefer to wait a while and watch them build up over, a couple laps, and then have a few little looks, and then go and then have a battle out to try and keep the position, rather than, I think also that it was like easy to get around and then easy to get around back and then easy to get around. But my favorite part about overtakes isn't the fact that they've overtaken. My favorite part is watching how the drivers start to get around, and then they have to hold the position and hold the line and kind of keep it. And then that's where the tension comes. The tension doesn't really come from the overtake itself, in my opinion. The tension comes from making the overtake stick. And you didn't really have to make the overtake stick, because they didn't stick, and then they were back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And it was so exhausting, and I was not enjoying it. That's why I really didn't enjoy the races. That was one of the main factors. The other thing was that, oh my gosh, this is still happening. So many cars are just not finishing. So many DNFs every single race. And like sometimes there's like 5, almost 10 cars out of, maybe not 10, maybe I'm exaggerating, but like there's like a lot of cars that don't finish the race. And I don't think that that's how it should be. Obviously a couple DNFs, every race is kind of expected, or most races, but like 1 or 2, why are we having 6 or 7 DNFs? It's just, I don't love that. And I thought it would be getting better, but I'm pretty sure in the last race, there was like quite a few DNFs. And anyway, something else I really didn't enjoy from the beginning of the season was the new starting thing. So when they started, right? Okay, first couple of races, we have Kimi and George qualifying the best because their car was just better. Well, actually I have something to say about that, but Kimi and George out the front, then, Ferraris, McLarens, whatever, back behind. Oh, and Max somewhere in there as well. George and Kimi out the front, then the takeoff, they couldn't take off. And every single race, it was like the Ferraris getting past and then getting first position and swapping back and all that stuff. But so many cars couldn't get a good start that they have a new starting procedure, which from memory, I'm pretty sure I'm right on this, wasn't introduced until a couple races in because they needed it. But essentially, they needed to rev their engines enough to be able to get enough power to get off the line, because by the time that they got back around from their formation lap, they just didn't have enough power. So now it's not like it used to be. Cars stop, the guy waves the flag across the back, then the lights flash, and then they go out. All lights go on, and then they go out. And then when they go out, lights off and away we go. We all know this. But now they've introduced a starting procedure. So the cars go and wait, the guy does the flaggy thing, and then there's lights on the side of the track, and they go on, and then all the cars rev the absolute shit out of their cars to get some kind of energy and power into their power unit engine things. And then the lights, so it's like they sit there for like, I don't know, it feels like ages. It's probably only like 10 or 15 seconds, and they're like revving the shit out of it, and then the lights do the thing, and then they go. And then so now takeoffs are a bit better. In very recent races, we've seen that the takeoffs have been a lot better. But yeah, that also has made me be like this. It just made me think this whole season was a joke. Also, Max Verstappen, we all know Max. Why did I say Verstappen? Max, he is so not enjoying this season that he is actually racing in other sporting events. And I don't know if this is always the case, so I could be wrong. I know he's always done simulator racing and he competes in that. And he did simulator racing. Like he'll stay up all night and sim race and then do a race. And he's on another level. But Max has been racing in the 24-hour endurance races, which is really cool. And also because, okay, another thing that happened this season is that we had some races cancelled because of the conflict in the Middle East. So then we had a bigger break at the beginning. And in that break, Max was like, hey, I'm going to do heaps more racing with other things because this isn't fun anymore. So then Max went and did 24-hour racing with Red Bull in their Mercedes car, which is so funny. But basically, if you didn't know, there's a type of racing event, endurance racing, which I didn't know anything about. And now I know a teeny tiny bit about. There's all these different classes, like 4 classes, I think, of cars. And they all go around the world and they do endurance racing, which is a 24-hour race. So there's teams, there's 2 to 4 to 6 drivers per team, depending on what kind of event they're doing. Because qualifying is also long. Qualifying is like 4 hours anyway. And all these cars go out on the track at the same time. So there's hundreds of cars, but they're not all racing each other because they're racing in their own classes. And essentially they just race for ages and then swap drivers because they have to sleep. Because a 24-hour race, you can't drive for 24 hours. You can't even really drive for 4 hours straight. So he was doing that. And because he's brought so much attention to the sport, because now people are like, what's this? Max Verstappen's doing it. They started streaming whenever he was racing for free on YouTube. So Jackson found out about this and was telling me about this. And because we've been traveling Europe, one of the things we did is we went to the Nürburgring, which if you don't know what that is, I'm going to tell you right now. It's a crazy racetrack in Germany. It's really long. It's like, I don't know, 12 or 15 minutes a lap. I think we did it in 12 minutes. So obviously the people that are like fully racers can probably do it in like 8 minutes or something or less. I don't know. If you know, let me know how long it takes to do a lap of the Nürburgring, like if you're Max Verstappen. But we were there because on certain days you can actually drive your own car around the Nürburgring. And we bought a car in England and we've been road tripping it around England and then Europe. We drove to Sweden. We've driven all through Germany and Belgium and the Netherlands and Switzerland and France and Italy. And when we were in Germany, we stopped there and Jackson did a lap. He raced around that. And when we were going to leave, Jackson realized and found out that Max was actually racing the next day at the Nürburgring. So we did what any sane person would do. We bought tickets. It's only the qualifying that we watched him in. So basically it's like a 4-hour event where they get their positions for starting. And there was 2 qualifyings, a Saturday and a Sunday. I don't know how it works. I don't know how they figure it out, but we just wanted to see him race around. So we went there and we waited on the Saturday night because they did one on the Saturday night and then they did one on the Sunday in the day. And we were leaving on the Sunday to leave from Germany to Paris. And we really wanted to watch him. So we were like, we'll just go Saturday night. It's fine. We go there, we stay all day because they had other events and other things on as you do at a racetrack. And then finally it's Max's time to race and the qualifying starts. They all start going. He actually didn't start, so he had a teammate. The teammate starts and half an hour into the race, there's a red flag. And from where we're sitting, we don't know what's happened. We can't watch it. But actually, tragically, there was an accident. One of the cars leaked oil and there was like a whole heap of cars involved in this accident. One of the drivers actually passed away at the track, which was really sad. And I can't put into words the feeling of the energy and the sadness and grief at the track. It was really sad, and obviously motorsport is dangerous, and everyone that watches it and participates in it knows that. You can put as much safety measures as you can in there, but you can't prevent accidents sometimes, and sometimes things just go really horribly and tragically wrong, and that is what happened that day. And it was really, really sad, and I hope to never again, I hope that no one ever dies racing again, but that is not a realistic thing to hope for or wish for, even though I do wish for it. But it was just really, really tragic and really sad. We didn't see Max race because he was going to come out in the second stint and they cancelled the event for that evening. So they just cancelled the qualifying. So then we didn't see Max and we were very excited to see Max and then we were very sad. But we actually decided to come back before we drove to Paris the next day and watch qualifying the next day. So we bought a second ticket and then we watched qualifying. We didn't watch the whole thing because we had to go, but Max started on the first stint. So we got to watch him race and he was really great. And it was pretty cool to watch. I do enjoy motorsport. I didn't enjoy it that much because if you watch my content, you probably are not a super expert fan in Formula One, because otherwise you would probably watch me and go, this is so basic. But something that I preach is that you need to understand what's going on and why, and the politics or the competition and the people, and you need to understand how it works point scoring wise to enjoy Formula One. And the same goes for all racing. If you don't know what's going on, watching cars drive around the track can be really cool and exhilarating, but you're just not really invested and it's not super interesting intellectually. So we watched a bit and then we left, and I would like to understand how that works, but also I don't care that much. But one thing I remember from being there was on the radio, they were talking about how Max is just unmatched as a driver, especially in that kind of event, and how he knew, because as a Formula One driver, so much of it is not just like driving the car and putting it in the right driving line. A lot of it is about positioning your car behind the car in front and tire degradation and aerodynamics and all this stuff. And so they were saying that he can do these insane overtakes because he's the only one out there that has that F1 knowledge and actually can position his car to get all these aerodynamic benefits. They were saying he knew how to position his car close enough to the car in front that he got aerodynamic benefit, but also didn't get like dirty air degradation stuff. Like he didn't get impeded by it. And then because he could stay closer to the cars in front because of the aerodynamics and how he knew where to position the car, he could make crazy overtakes. So he would start in sixth and then be in first by the fifth lap. Anyway, if you're interested in the Nürburgring 24-hour, he didn't win. I think the other Red Bull team won. They had some kind of mechanical issue later down the race, down the track. So that's why they didn't win. But crazy. So to tie this back in, Max is racing in other races because he's so bored of Formula One, because now it doesn't even feel like racing, because like as I was saying, the yo-yo overtakes, it's not so much about skill. They're just trying to like harvest power and not use too much. And I know that would take like a different type of skill and all that stuff. But these guys are like racing drivers, you know, I think also seeing Max and a lot of the drivers not be excited about this season has made it also less exciting as a fan, because I can feel their lack of enthusiasm. Yeah. Now that we've talked about the negatives and why I haven't enjoyed Formula One as much this season, I'm going to get into what I am enjoying about this season, because something else I truly believe in is that two things can be true at once, and there is two sides to everything. There's good and bad in everything. And yeah, two things can be true at once. So while all that is very, very true, I'm starting to really enjoy this season, and I think there's some things that are going so well, and I'm so excited about it. So we start off the season with George kind of dominating a little bit. First couple races, first race, I don't know, it very much seemed like the Mercedes were the cars on top, and then George was basically going to win the championship because he was the more experienced driver and he has the best car. But sorry, it's just so hot. This is just a wet towel. We have seen now, if you don't know, spoilers, Kimi Antonelli is the top of the ladder. He's winning the championship so far, and we are over halfway, I believe. I'm going to look at the calendar. Okay, so there's 22 races this season, and we are about to have round 8. So we're not halfway yet, but we are well and truly into the season, and Kimi Antonelli is winning. Whoop, whoop. And he's winning by a lot. Did he have a DNF last race? I don't remember. Anyway, current driver standings. Kimi Antonelli, Lewis Hamilton, George Russell, Charles Leclerc, Lando Norris, Oscar Piastri, and then Max Verstappen. And then everyone else that I'm not going to tell you because I don't really care that much. So I really thought that George was going to dominate, which is also one of the reasons I didn't like the beginning of the season that much, because George is okay, but I'm sorry. Like, I'm sorry if you love George and if you're a George stan. He just doesn't tickle my pickle. He just doesn't really like do it for me. Do you know what I mean? I think he's all right, but I'm going to be really honest right now. He just gives a little bit of like the kid at the back of the class who puts his hand up at the end of the lesson and says, oh wait, you forgot we had a pop quiz today, remember? Weren't we supposed to have a test? And then everyone else in the class groans. He's such a stickler for the rules. He's always kind of like known as the driver that's always trying to enforce all the regulations and everything. And obviously they all do that. Max is really good at playing that and being able to like pick up when someone does something wrong in another car. But yeah, George is just a little bit of like he just gives me really posh vibes. And not that there's anything wrong with being posh, but I love when the drivers are really chill and down to earth and real. Do you know what I mean? Not that he's not real, but I just more of like a everyday, you know, pal next door kind of vibe. I really like that in drivers. So that's why George isn't my favorite. I think he's also just got such a cockiness. I don't know. And you've got to have that for F1. Don't worry. So many of the drivers have that. I'm not saying it's just George. A lot of them have it. A lot of them don't. And again, I think Kimi Antonelli doesn't have that. I think Isaac Hadjar doesn't have that. I think Oscar Piastri doesn't have that. And I think that's why I even think Charlie Leclerc doesn't have that. And that's probably why they are very much more of the drivers I favor because I prefer just more of that like chill energy. That was such a rant. Basically, I thought George was going to keep dominating, and that was making me less interested because who you support and follow really does impact how you enjoy the season. That's just the truth with any sporting supporter ever. But then Kimi started winning. The first win, thought it was a fluke. Second win, thought it was a fluke. Third win, I don't know. He's going great. He has 6 podiums and 5 wins. There's been 7 races and he's won 5 of them. That's crazy. I didn't even realize that. I'm just saying that statistic right now. We've had 7 races. Kimi Antonelli, baby Kimi Antonelli, has won 5 of them. George Russell has won 1, which was Australia, I think. I don't think he's won since Australia. And he's only had 3 podiums. And Lewis Hamilton, okay, the other reason I'm excited is that Lewis Hamilton is coming second in the championship in his Ferrari. A couple videos back, or a lot of videos back, I don't know, I was talking a lot last season about like what has happened to Lewis. Why is he struggling so much in his Ferrari? And I am so glad that he is finally finding his groove. I'm not the biggest Lewis Hamilton fan. I'm more so excited for him because of the law. I'm really excited at the potential of him winning the championship. I think I would be happy if Kimi or Lewis won, but I think I would prefer Lewis to win because if Kimi won, it would be good because it would be funny because he beat George, and it's kind of just iconic, the fact that he's basically a kid. He graduated high school last year or whatever, and he's just going to win the championship. I think it would be funny, but I think Lewis winning would be better because then he would get his record of 7 wins and have won the most championships of any driver ever in history. And that's what he was trying to do when he had that famous final race championship battle with Max Verstappen in, hold on, let me Google. Okay, sorry, I just checked. I was wrong. Lewis has won 7 championships and he is tied with Schumacher and his 7 championship win. So if Lewis wins 1 more, he will hold the record for winning the most drivers' championships of any driver in the world, which would be absolutely insane. And I do want to see it happen because I think it would be iconic, especially after the fact that he didn't, like, I think it would be more iconic and more of a great story that they will make movies about if he wins it now. Because if he had have won on his Mercedes winning streak, which is in 2021 when he had that battle with Max, is that the first year Max won? Okay, yes, in Max's, I should have known that, obviously. Max's first championship. So if Lewis had have won in 2021 when he was battling Max for his first championship and Max won after that really controversial Abu Dhabi call by the race people, it's a whole nother story. If he had have won then, he would have won on his streak and he would have got the championship and he could have just had like a nice, neat and tidy, like, I won. I'm good now. But he didn't win, right? So then everyone has been saying for years that his time is up. He couldn't crack it at Mercedes. They weren't doing it. He moved to Ferrari. He was going even worse at Ferrari. And that was partly because they had the worst race engineer for him. Why would you hire that guy? I've heard his team radio. He was absolute garbage. His new race engineer, I like a lot better. But yeah, he had this horrible team and he ended up working with them to try and get a better team for himself. And my thoughts are, if he wins now, what a great comeback story. Like perhaps the most iconic comeback story of this era of Formula One. And I think that would be absolutely incredible. And now there's a chance. Last season, Lewis had his worst season ever in the history of Formula One. He didn't win any races. I don't even think he got on the podium. I think he maybe won a sprint. I don't know. I'm not going to fact check that because I'm tired of fact checking. But all I know is that I don't think he got any podiums for races last year and he definitely didn't get any wins. And then now he's won a race. He won the last race. Iconic. Oh, that was so good to see. I was actually stoked about that. And I hope so bad that he wins Silverstone because I could just imagine the British crowd. If Lewis wins, the energy is going to be incredible. So I really hope that he wins. But yeah, he's quite a bit behind Kimi. He's quite a bit behind Kimi, but he could catch up. We don't know. And I think there's more than half the season left. And we know how the tables can turn from last season and Lando versus Oscar. So yeah, it has been exciting. It's been exciting between Kimi and George because at the first time when Kimi won, George was like, oh, pat in the back, little brother, like, good job. And then now you can see getting to George, he's getting very frustrated. And there is a kind of like that battle between the two teammates. But because Hamilton is now in the mix, I'm really excited about the prospect of Hamilton winning. And I think if Hamilton wins, this season will be incredible. So yeah, just because the season started out rocky and I'm not loving the new changes in the cars and the regulations, and I had a rant about that, I am still really, 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 really enjoying it. So that's why I'm so into it now because yeah, Kimi, the little baby Kimi is doing so well and beating George, which just gives me like a little bit of satisfaction. And And Lewis, his comeback, I just think it's incredible. Also, after leaving Mercedes, if he left Mercedes and then Mercedes had this great car at the beginning of the year, but he still won in the Ferrari, I love it when their decisions are just the right ones. You know, Daniel Ricciardo had a lot of these terrible decisions for his career, and I think it kind of ended his career and killed his chance of having a championship. If he had have made some different decisions with what teams he went with at different times, I think he could have done better and had a better career and more longevity, but it just didn't work out for him. So I love that when people take a gamble and do what they think is right. I love when it pays off. Obviously that can't work all the time, but I just think it would be really good if moving to Ferrari not only was just like a bucket list thing for Hamilton, but if it actually means that he wins his 8th. Imagine if he won his 8th championship with Ferrari and it was a battle against Mercedes. Stop. You can't write a better story. This is writing itself. The movie that he will produce and make after this will be incredible. And then I think he'll probably retire. I think if he won his last championship, I think he would not keep going that much. And I also think Max is going to retire soon because he just doesn't care. He doesn't have that thing where he wants to win 9 world titles to beat Lewis. He's got a family. He's got a daughter and 2 daughters. He has passions outside of it. He's talked very openly about how he doesn't just care about Formula One, and now he's won championship and he's ticked that box. He's ready to do other things. You can see in the fact that he's racing for other stuff, and he has more passions than just Formula One, whereas Lewis has dedicated his whole life to Formula One, not had a family, not had any really super long-term notable like relationships. He hasn't been married. The most like common people he brings to Formula One is his mum, sometimes his dad, but his mum is at a lot of them. And he's just very, very committed to the sport. And he's talked about as well that he chose this. He chose Formula One and his career over other things. And so I think it'd be really cool. Also, if you didn't know, Lewis Hamilton is dating Kim Kardashian, which is so bonkers. It's so bonkers. Give me a minute. We're back. Lewis Hamilton is dating Kim Kardashian, and I did not see that coming. That is crazy to me. I literally would have expected him to win a championship over date Kim Kardashian, which both might happen this season, and that would be absolutely wild. But yeah, he's dating Kim Kardashian, and I don't really know how that works for him because he's really big on the for the people. Do you know what I mean? Like, I came from humble beginnings, you know, I'm just a regular guy kind of vibe. Thank you so much for your support. And Kim Kardashian is probably the least down-to-earth woman on the planet and plays into it. I think she does it on purpose. She makes it very clear that she's a billionaire and that she doesn't know the price of milk, and she's very entitled, and I think that's part of her image. But also I'm like, has she ever watched a Formula One race ever? Like, okay, maybe not until she started dating Lewis, but she's been dating him for a while. And then she went to the Monaco Grand Prix and she took Kimi's towel, ignored interviewers, and it looked like she had no idea what was going on. But I feel a little bit of sympathy for her because no matter how the Kardashians, particularly Kim, turned up to the F1, no matter what they do in any situation in life, they're going to be talked about. They're not going to do it right. People are going to have opinions. So while it's like, hey, you didn't really do the thing, she's probably got to have an air of, I don't really care because I just do what I want to do, and that's what's made her famous and rich and whatever. And also, who cares what people think? But also maybe she could be like a little bit more clued in. I don't know. That's just my opinion as an amateur F1 enthusiast. But yeah, I don't know. She took Kimi Antonelli's towel, and I saw that it was after the champagne spray, so it mustn't have been his towel for after the race. Maybe she stood in the wrong place, got covered in champagne, took the towel, wiped her face with it, just blatantly took it. I'm surprised at that, for one, because how does she know it was clean? She doesn't seem like the kind of gal that just picks up a towel off any kind of surface, but she did. And then also, like, you had no regard for who that towel was for. I just can't imagine living like that, but that's who she is and that's her life. And then Mercedes did so good, and their social media team did a reaction to it. Well, not a reaction, but they did like a skit where Kimi Antonelli was like, where's my towel? Who has my towel? Which is just so funny. I think my favorite thing is all these little back moments and backstories and inside jokes that the teams play into. And yeah, and I think it's really funny because while, as I said, George Russell isn't my favorite, he is the best at stirring the pot and, you know, kind of like shit stirring Lewis. And he just will say like, oh, new girlfriend, huh? And like do all these jokes, and Lewis is so private and he's like, please don't. And I think it's so funny because yeah, George is a funny mix of the goody two shoes at the back of the class, or like the teacher's pet, but also the class clown, not the class clown, but the little troublemaker. So I think it's so funny. And I actually have to give him props for that because that is iconic and hilarious that he has the balls, I guess, that he has the courage to go up against Lewis. Not go up against him, but just to stir the pot. It's just so funny to me. Lewis Hamilton dating Kim Kardashian, crazy. What was I going to Google? Also, probably last thing that I want to touch on in this video is I mentioned earlier that Mercedes started out with the best cars, and I want to talk about it. So 4 of the teams on the grid have Mercedes power units, and that is Mercedes, McLaren, Alpine, and Williams. Mercedes dominating at the beginning, particularly qualifying, just had such a faster car than all the other cars. I didn't know this, but there was a couple races in a turning point and the car started doing better, but particularly McLaren was suddenly kind of competitive, kind of getting back. And I was like, I don't know what happened. And then Jackson, being the person that just is in the know for all this stuff, basically said that there was something that Mercedes was keeping secret about their power unit. And then they told the other teams. And then that, as soon as they told them the next week, the teams are suddenly competitive again. And particularly McLaren can suddenly be competitive. So I don't know if they were withholding information about their engines. And then I'm pretty sure that's what happened. They were basically withholding some information about their engines. And then the other teams were like, we need to know this. Finally, the information was divulged to them. And now McLaren can kind of be competitive again. I think that's telling. I mean, all the teams probably would take any little advantage that they can. I get it. It's competitive. But still, it seems so sketchy to me that happened. So while Mercedes was dominating, especially right at the beginning, and they're still dominating, the other teams are starting to catch up. And I wonder how much of that domination was a little bit of like sneaky tactics. Toto Wolff, what are you doing? Are you being sneaky? I don't know. It's just something I remember from the top of my brain that I don't actually remember that well. But yeah, wanted to mention it. So essentially, to wrap up this big, long, probably really long video ranting about the season so far, there's definitely problems with this season. There's definitely things I haven't liked about the regulations, and it's made me have a lot less of an inspired beginning of the season and be a lot less invested. But the season is unfolding in a quite interesting way, and I am still very invested and excited to see how it goes. And my hopes for the season is that Lewis Hamilton wins, Kimi Antonelli comes second, and I don't really care who comes third. My hopes for Silverstone is that Lewis Hamilton wins, and I cannot wait. We have one race in between, I think Austria. Yep. So we had Barcelona last weekend, which was a really good race because Lewis won. Kimi Antonelli DNF'd though, or yeah, I'm pretty sure he DNF'd right at the end. It was actually tragic, but he's still in the lead. Lewis Hamilton, I don't really care who wins this weekend, but I hope he wins Britain in 2 weeks' time. So it's like the first weekend of July is the Silverstone Grand Prix. So very excited about that. I will probably film a little bit at the Grand Prix and put together a video of like my thoughts afterwards. But thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to me rant. If you stayed to the end, power to you, because I am a yapper. I just really appreciate it. I love getting on here and talking about F1. If you have specific things you want me to talk about, let me know. But also, I'm just so happy you're here for when I do feel the urge to yap about F1. And let me know what your thoughts are about the season. Do you want George to win? Do you want Kimi to win? Are you as excited about the prospect of Lewis winning? You know, what do we think? What have I missed? But yeah, I guess thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.